Almost?
Yes, they
Okay.
are still going around.
Okay. Go ahead and have a seat.
Because you can fill out notepads and
Yeah.
listen at the same time, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely, you are multitasking students. I have every bit of faith in you to be able to do that. So, who have we been talking about the last two nights? Last two Wednesday nights. Do you know his name? He has the same name as my son, short. Joseph. Yeah, we've been talking about Joseph. And when we talked about Joseph the first time, we were talking about how he had a dream. And what did his dream get him? Got him in trouble. Got his rear end whooped, got him put in a pit, got him sold into slavery. So we talked about the past, and we talked about decisions that we make and things of that nature. Then we went to, so we did past, we did now, last Wednesday, correct? Yes. So we looked at Joseph, we walked him through Potiphar's deal where he was accused of sleeping with her, even though he didn't. She's a lying harlot. And then we talked about just the process of him and the cupbearer and the what was he? He was a baker. Yeah. And what happened to the baker? He got impaled on a pole. So Joseph, dreams got him in trouble because he was a little immature and talking to his brothers and his family about how the dreams showed him one day that they would all bow down to him. So if your siblings told you that you were going to bow down to them one day, how would you feel about that? There's some groaning going on. Now, if you're an only child, then that's not a problem. But if you, let's say, then your cousins showed up and said, one day you are going to bow to me, how are you going to feel? You're going to be a little upset, going to beat them up. We got some honesty in the room. Are we going to start planning a way where they are not going to be bowing down to you, where they're not going to have so much power? Because whether we like it or not, do we like to kind of be on top of things? We want to be in charge. How many of you, whenever we do the gingerbread house building contest next Wednesday night, you're going to be the guy in charge? Or girl. Got one. I see you like, I don't want to raise my hand, so I'm just going to scratch my lip. Grant's like, I want a little control. Some of you will have control of certain areas. Like, you're going to make sure this dumb thing does not fall apart, okay? That you're in charge of bringing the glue, okay? Somebody's going to be the cheerleader, and so we're going to be urging you on. So the now moment is what you're in, what you were in, and what you are in right now. So how many of you realize what your now is? This is what I'm living in. This is my situation. This is what it's like. You know what it's like at home. You know what it's like at school. You know what it's like in your circle of friends. You know what it's like in all kinds of aspects of your life. So do you have a grasp of who you are and where you're at in life? A lot of people are like, oh, teenagers are so confused. They don't know who they are right now. You ever hear that from people? Oh, it just drives me insane. I'm like, yeah, they know exactly who they are. If they're an angry teenager, they know they're an angry teenager, okay? If they're that person that's a little overbearing, they know they're that overbearing teenager, okay? You know who you are. If you're depressed, do you know you're depressed? Yeah, absolutely. If you're happy, you know you're happy. I mean, we could sing like if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. Okay, so we could sing if you're sad and you know it, clap your hands. But we don't want to talk about that tonight. We want to look into your future. If I had a crystal ball and I could rub on it and it showed you what your life would be like after graduation, how many of you want to run up here to look at it? Oh, everybody. Some of you are like, I don't want to know. I might be a train wreck. Has anybody ever seen, there were some movies that came out when I was a kid after the dinosaurs died? Back to the Future. Michael J. Fox, Back to the Future, and then there was one where he went to the future, and so there was I think there was 3 of them, wasn't there? Yeah, or 4. Yeah, they got a new one that came out. And so all this stuff about how would you like to go forward and see what your life is like in 20 years? How many of you hope to be married in 20 years? How many of you hope to be in your career and flowing in 20 years? Like you got a bank roll. You are driving a Tesla. Xander's already driving one. How many of you are like, I'm driving a big Dodge Cummins dually. Nobody can stop me. And then there are those who are halfway saved that drive a Ford Power Stroke, and then there are those that just get the Duramax. But anyway, we're going to look into your future because we've walked with Joseph through his teenage years being a dreamer. Then he gets put in prison, and what is he still? He's not a dreamer, but he's interpreting dreams. So is God changing what he showed him to begin with? Is what got him in trouble, God is giving him power over. Does that seem crazy? I'll tell you, for me in my old age wisdom, what got me in trouble in my younger years, God walked with me and is giving me power over it. So my mouth, that was not so good whenever I was a teenager or in my 20s, God gave me power over it. I'm able to make a conscious decision not to say bad words. And that's hard. I'm sorry, I forgot to hit start streaming on that. So, well, you have to click on the images. But anyway, if we totally scrap them, it's fine. We're doing a new program with that tonight, and it can get kind of frustrating. I didn't show her how to work it. You should really show people how to work something if you're going to have them do it, aren't you? So it's not her fault, it's mine. But how many of you have something right now you would love to have power over it? It's an emotion. Maybe it's an activity that it's something you're doing, and you would love to have power over it. Good or bad? Have you have something bad you'd love to have power over? Like you could say, you know what, God has helped me walk through this, and I'm going to have power over this desire, this emotion, this whatever it is in your life. How many of you want to have power over something that makes you happy? Well, everybody should raise your hands for that, because you got something that makes you happy, and something that you hope makes you happy someday, because some of you want to find Mr. Right or Mrs. Right, and you want to spend the rest of your life with them. Some of you are hoping for a job that you get, and you want to work in that career the rest of your life, and you want to retire and live on the beach or in the mountains or on the lake or maybe just in a cave somewhere. I don't know what your thoughts are. Somewhere where the Wi-Fi works so you can continue to play video games. But and then you want to die peacefully in your sleep and go to heaven, correct? Yes. So when we look at Joseph's future, we're going to move past a few things. We've kind of flown through his life basically to prove some points in life with Joseph. Joseph's dreams, Joseph's interpreting dreams. But can your dreams come true? Yeah, they can. Has anybody ever had a dream and then like a year later, it's like you're living in what you dreamed a year ago or something, and it's just like, whoa, this is really flooring me that I'm in this. And so Joseph finds himself, because he found favor with Pharaoh over interpreting that dream that said, hey, we need to put some food back because there's famine coming. There's all this stuff that's going to be destroying the land, and we need to start storing food up right now. They're like the squirrels putting nuts in trees, okay? So they made these giant grain bins, and because of what Joseph did, they were able to survive all of this terrible famine that was hitting the area. But that was for the Egyptians. So was there outside areas outside of Egypt that were affected by this drought that covered the world? Yes. And so were they looking for help? Yes. And this is where we get to see Joseph's brothers come in, and we get to see the dream of his brothers bowing down to him coming true. Like it actually happened. And so in Genesis 42, 1 through 6, it says, when Jacob heard that grain was available, now Jacob is Joseph's father, when Jacob heard that grain was available in Egypt, he said to his sons, why are you standing around looking at one another? Can you picture that? Why are you standing around looking at each other? I have heard there is grain in Egypt. Go down there and buy enough grain to keep us alive, otherwise we will die. So Joseph's 10 older brothers went down to Egypt to buy grain. But Jacob wouldn't let Joseph's younger brother Benjamin go with them for fear some harm might come to him. So Jacob's son arrived in Egypt along with others to buy food, for the famine was in Canaan as well. Since Joseph was governor over all Egypt and in charge of selling grain to all the people, it was to him that his brothers came. When they arrived, they bowed before him and their faces to the ground. So, did his dream come true that he had when he was a child? Like, I had this dream that you guys were going to Bow down to me. Now, if you read the story, you'll see he approached it all wrong. He has this dream, and some things that, does anybody feel like you're the favorite child? Okay. Your mom told you you're the favorite child. Now, does anybody feel like your brother or sister is the favorite child in the house and you are not? Okay. My wife is raising her hand for some reason. I don't know why. Lord Jean's on my left side, so I don't even know what she did. But some of you feel like one's more important than the other. And have you ever heard of the coat of many colors in the Bible? That's Joseph. Joseph was given this coat of many colors. Did he appear to be the spoiled child in the house? Yes, he did. I mean, because Jacob favored him and because of who he was from, and there was a certain connection with him. And so he gets this coat of many colors. And so he's already looks like he's the favored kid. And then he has a dream that says, all y'all gonna bow down to me. He could have said, man, I had the craziest dream last night, and I don't know what to think of it. And it's just crazy that we were living like this, and all of these things, the stars were bowing down, and grain was doing this. And if you want to read the whole story, go back and read it in Genesis 36, I think. And so he just doesn't hit the approach right. And so when his brothers gets mad, do they get rightfully mad? They're like, you can't tell us that. We're your older brothers. And so he gets thrown in a pit, sold off into slavery. Do you think he ever questioned that dream that he had? Do you think he ever questioned, like, when is this, God, I know you gave me this dream, when it's going to come true? Does any of you have anything right now that you're questioning God on? And it's okay. Is it okay to question God? So, I mean, you're going to think I'm tricking you and saying, oh, no, we should never question God. But do you want to know the answer? God knows you're questioning him. I've asked him things before, like, why? What's one of the most common things that a little kid says all the time? Why? Why do they say why? Is it to be annoying? Some of you are like, yes, it's to be annoying. But is it because they want to know the answer? Yeah. If you want to know the answer right now with something, where do you go? Google. Yeah. Google. Where else? Parents? Okay. Anybody else? Anything else where you would go for the answers? Siblings? Oh, give me the Sunday school answer. Prayer. We know how this, yeah, Jesus, yeah, you liars. Where? Teacher. A teacher, okay. Coach. You overthink it so much you figure your own stuff out? How many of you ask your friends for their opinion? Yeah, what if their opinion stinks? Do you go to the next friend? Yeah, isn't that how it really is? You can ask people their opinion, but if you don't like it, do you move on to the next person and ask them, do you find someone? They're like, yes, you are my bro. You understand me. Those other people, they just didn't get it, okay? And so Joseph how do you think he felt the moment he saw his brothers bow down to him? And I think it really depends, and I want you to catch this. I think it really depends on where your heart is with God, how you take that in. Because he could have went, ha, I got you right where I want you. Now, if you read the full story, he jacked with his brothers. He did. He jacked with them. I think the Holy Spirit walked up because the door opened and nobody came in. But it's okay. Come on in, sit down. We love you. We want you here. So when his brothers bowed down to him, did he have to have, was his love conditioned? Did he have some conditioned love? Because he'd been through some stuff. He'd seen a lot of stuff happen to him that wasn't fair. He'd seen a lot of stuff go on in his life. And so had his heart been molded and shaped for just that perfect time, God knew there was going to be a famine affecting his people. And he allowed those things to play out in Joseph's life. Why? Okay, and we can look straight at Joseph, and it's for him, but bigger picture. Why did God allow this stuff? And this is where we talk about like bad things that God allows bad things to happen. God knew there was a famine coming. And he saw way down the road that he was going to need to fix some stuff. And Joseph got put in a pit. A little bit because of Joseph's arrogance. A little bit of an interpretation of a dream in a way that should have been done different. But then he gets sent to Egypt. Has God's plan already started to save his people? Because a famine is coming. And he puts Joseph in a position. Ooh, what else does he make Joseph? How does he look? It says he was a very well-built man. He was handsome. So I want you to picture the most handsome guy right now that you know, girls, and that's Joseph. And that was who was walking around. And so how tall is he? How tall is Joseph? How tall do you think he is? 6'2"? Anybody else? No, he's not a Nephilim. He's not a Nephilim. Girls, do you want to date a guy that's 7'5"? No, none of you want to date a guy. One does. One out of 10 dentists say that's bad for you. Okay. So you're picturing over 6 foot tall. That's where I am not the ideal man. Okay, I'm not 6 foot tall. Okay, some of you are like, crap, I'm not going to meet the scale. I mean, like Kai's probably going to be what? How tall is your dad? 6'5", okay? And so you're probably destined to be tall. Joe is doomed, okay? Sorry. But, so Joseph is a good-looking man. Has God conditioned that for a reason? Yeah, because, let's just put it, they put them on the cover of magazines, don't they? Yeah, they make models out of them, things of that nature. And so he's got some stuff going for him. So God is working all this stuff out in his life. People start having bad dreams, and he starts giving Joseph the gift of what? Interpreting dreams. He didn't know what his own dream meant, the first one he had. So through all that, did God show him, hey, I'm going to let you interpret these things. I'm going to let you understand how this works. And so he goes on in Genesis 43:26, after he has conditioned his heart to love his brothers. Because can you get mad at family? Oh, they'll make you madder and faster than anything else. Family will make you madder than anything. But Joseph had to see that God was working in him. He spent time with the Lord. He had a prayer life. He still recognized God as being authority, even though Pharaoh was worshiping other gods. He was surrounded by all the outside influence you could have. He's the only Jewish guy in the bunch. He's the only Christian, if you want to call it that, the only person who believed in God in his area, really fully believed in him, and he's surrounded by all these pagans, and he still kept his focus on God. It says in Genesis 43:26 through 34, when Joseph came home, they gave him the gifts they had brought him, then bowed low to the ground before him. So are they bowing again? Yes. So they bow low before him. After greeting them, he asked, how is your father? So has he still got family on his mind? Yes, family can tick you off, but is somewhere inside you, do you still have a love for them? You do. Whether you want to admit it or not, you do. You have a love for them. God has created it that way. It says, after greeting them, he asked, how's your father? The old man you spoke about, is he still alive? So is he asking questions because he wants to know how his family's doing? It says, yes, they replied, our father, your servant, is alive and well. And they bowed low again. Then Joseph looked at his brother Benjamin, the son of his own mother. Is this your youngest brother, the one you told me about? Joseph asked, may God be gracious to you, my son. Then Joseph hurried from the room because he was overcome with emotion for his brothers. These are the brothers that threw him in a pit. These are the brothers that were plotting to kill him, that put blood on his coat to make it look like he'd been eaten by a wild animal. And he still, down deep inside, has this emotion for these people that betrayed him, that put him in the spot where he was at, because he's getting the full picture of it. He's seeing his dream come true that he had in his teenage years, and he's going, God is revealing something to me. How can I hate my brothers? This is the future being played out for him. There are some people that have hurt you in life right now. Maybe best friends, maybe family, maybe strangers, whatever. But do you think God can take some stuff that's twisted at home and use it for the future? Don't ever give up on how God is working in your house. Don't ever give up on how God is working in your heart. And this is Joseph's into his adult years. So has he waited a while? Yeah, he's waited a while. He's in a famine now of desperation, 7 years. And it says, after washing his face, he came back out, keeping himself under control. Then he ordered, bring out the food. The waiter served Joseph at his own table, and his brothers were served as at a separate table. The Egyptians who ate with Joseph sat at their own table because Egyptians despised Hebrews and refused to eat with them. Joseph told each of his brothers where to sit, and to their amazement, he seated them according to age, from oldest to youngest. And the only people that know to do that, that is a Hebrew tradition. Oldest to youngest. That was the order of how things were to happen. If you go and look at it, when the woman who was brought in front of Jesus to be stoned, and he said, those of you without sin, cast the first stone. And they stood there. And who left first? The oldest to youngest. God is starting to lay things out for the brothers to realize, because Joseph's going to reveal himself here in a minute. Was Joseph setting them up so they would know he knew Hebrew tradition? Yes, he set them oldest to youngest, because does that show that he even had some connection with his family? It does. It says, and Joseph filled their plates with food from his own table, giving Benjamin 5 times as much as he gave to others. So they feasted and drank freely with him. Was it a great family dinner? How many of you love family dinners? How many of you hate family dinners? Don't lie. You love them. You love them. I mean, how many of you have that, have had or have that grandma who cooks like a house on fire? It's amazing. Okay? You have that one family member that you love what they make. You love, I mean, if I was like, hey guys, we're just going to load up tonight and go to Golden Corral and just, you can eat whatever you want because they have everything you want, would you be gorging yourself with all the food you could get? Yes, you would, you little pigs. No. So he gives Benjamin 5 times as much. How come? He is the youngest, but what else is he? It's his own actual brother. It's from his mom too. Never got to spend time with him. Didn't know anything about him. But desired to have that relationship with him. And because how he chose not to let his heart get hardened, he is now serving his brothers. He served his brothers from his own table. Is that backwards from how it should be? How should it be if we're upset with somebody? What's the world say we should do? We should just shut them out. We should cast them away. Get rid of them. That's how, I mean, you'll get advice from your friends. How many of you have got advice from your friends? You shouldn't really have anything to do with them anymore. They're bad for you. And in some cases, that's right. But I mean, whenever you've had a little argument, when you've had a little argument or something that didn't go right, I've seen people, have you ever seen anybody fight over what you would call the stupidest stuff? Yeah, I have. And how many of you have seen some fight over something that's pretty important? I've seen both. But in the big scheme of I'll back up. Did you care for them before? Yeah, you did. You choose what level you put that on. Did your relationship mean enough to that? I'll tell you, just for me to get married, my dad's advice for me in the truck when we're out driving around checking cows, and this is like 2 or 3 weeks before we were getting married, and he looks at me and he says, I only got one thing to say to you. If this woman cheats on you and you can't forgive her, this is not the woman you need to marry. And that's heavy, isn't it? Because what's the world say you should do if your spouse cheats on you? Oh, just get divorced. You can drive down the interstate and see a sign that says, quick, easy divorce. Call this number right now. He said, if you can't forgive her of something to that level, this is not the woman you need to marry. And that's pretty heavy to put on somebody, isn't it? But I'm telling you that right now. When you go to get married, if that man or woman cheats on you and there's no way in your heart you could ever forgive them, don't do it. They're not the one for you. They're not the one that you really can see past all the faults. You won't see them like God sees you. Because how many of you in this room have ever cheated on God? I have. I've sinned. And does he still have the love for me to forgive me? Yes. Joseph still has that for his brothers, because here's the hard part: keeping your emotions in check. Keeping your emotions under control. Is that difficult for some of you? Especially, it depends on what kind of hurt you achieve from this. What you get hit in the face with. How your emotions come out. Now, do you think I control my emotions easy? No. But if you ask people that's known me for a long time, it's a lot better than it used to be. So is God still working and molding and shaping things in me? Yes, I'll tell you, he is. It says in Genesis 50, 16 through 21, so they sent this message to Joseph. Before your father died, he instructed us to say to you, please forgive your brothers for the great wrong they did to you, for their sin in treating you so cruelly. Now, just to tell you, this is after he's revealed himself to his brothers who he was, and now Jacob is dead, the father, and the brothers are a little scared that Joseph's going to do something to him. And so they say, for their sin in treating you so cruelly, so we, the servants of the God of your father, beg you to forgive our sin. When Joseph received the message, he broke down and wept. Then his brothers came and threw themselves down before Joseph. So are they bowing at his feet again? God's like, if you didn't get it the first time, boy, you're going to see it now. Okay, and it says, look, we are your slaves, they said. But Joseph replied, don't be afraid of me. Am I God that I can punish you? And if you notice, my favorite words are highlighted. You intended to harm me, but God. You will have everything in the world that can throw at you, but this is your response that needs to come back to it. You can throw this at me, but God. But God intended it all for good. He brought me to this position so I could save the lives of many people. No, don't be afraid. I will continue to take care of you and your children. So he reassured them by speaking how? Kindly to them. Can we say a lot of hateful stuff? We can. I've been really good at it. I've laid it down before. I've really spoke some heavy stuff. We're fixing to have a holiday called what? Christmas. What did God do? He sent his son. Because some bad things happened prior to this. Bad things happened years prior to Jesus coming. What was it? Sin entered the world. Adam and Eve. Just as I told you all last week, I can imagine when Eve bit that fruit, when Eve had the desire to go ahead and partake of that fruit, of what the devil was saying to do, and that thought and that emotion entered her mind to defy God. The sin didn't enter into the world when Eve bit the fruit, did it? It's when her emotions, her thought, her heart said, it's okay, I can do this. I feel like that God looked at Jesus as soon as sin entered the world and said, I'm going to have to send you into the world poor. I'm going to have to send you into a world that's going to enslave you. I'm going to have to send you into a world where a handful of people are going to love you. They're going to want to be with you. They're going to want to serve you. They're going to want to make you the Lord of their life. But I'm going to send you into the world, too, of some that are going to abuse you, that are going to beat you. But God saw you. Sin entered the world, and a but God saw you. For what the devil meant for evil, did God already have a good plan? He did. And we get to celebrate it in a few days. Was Jesus born on December 25th? I'll tell you, nope. But that's when we observe it. That's when we celebrate it. Because should we celebrate it sometime? Yes. How often should we celebrate it? Every day. Because God saw me thrown in a pit. He saw me sold into slavery as a sinner. And He walked with me through all of that just to reveal Himself and His plan in my life. And He's still revealing Himself and His plan for my life. How many of you can honestly say the stuff that's happening right now, there can be a but God in your story? I'm going to tell you, if you don't see it, He's working. Do you think Joseph always saw it? I don't think so. Do you think Joseph had some pity parties in that pit? In slavery? When he's wrongly accused of sexually assaulting a woman? Do you think he saw? He'd always just go, oh, God's working in this. Is that what we do? No, I think Joseph even went, this freaking crap ain't fair. But did God still stay with him and keep moving? He did. If you don't get anything out of this tonight other than this, He will not let anything that the enemy intended to harm you have victory in your life. If you choose to keep your eyes focused on Him. Don't make my mistakes of spending my 20s doing what I want to do, my early 30s doing what I want to do. I told you, I received Christ at the age of 12, but I didn't start following Jesus till I was 32. I want to make sure if you're here tonight and you're sold into that pit of slavery that the devil has, that we have no choice but to be in, have you put your faith and trust in Him? Because God developed a rescue plan, a God who had but God wants to show you He's here. Because how many of you are trying to show someone that God is real, that He loves you? If you're here tonight and you've never put your faith and trust in Jesus, He's here tonight and He is saying, let me show you. Let me show you what I can do. For some of you, reality has been real fresh on whether this world is real or the eternity past this world is real or not. I want to make sure you can celebrate Christmas, really celebrating the birth of a Christ who didn't just show up for fun. He showed up because you needed a rescue plan. God's dream for you to be saved can be fulfilled tonight. You choose what you do with it. Maybe you need to pray about what's going on in your life right now. God, I don't see you, but I know my future is already in your hands. I posted something on Instagram yesterday on a story. It said, if you don't feel like God can use you or that you're a mistake, then you just called Him a bad creator. You just said God screwed up when He made you. Did God screw up when He made you? He did not. But He can't have a relationship without you or with you. I'm going to rephrase that. He can't have a relationship with you without you. Does that make sense? Are you tracking with me? So I want to give you a chance tonight just to pray for your future and say, I need a but God to show up. But if you're here tonight and you don't have Jesus Christ as your Savior, find the person next to you or come talk to me or whoever it is you'd love to do that with. Say, God, I've been running too long. I need to make it real tonight. You need to take the chance to say, God, I know what's happening right now. The devil wants to destroy. He wants to destroy my family. He wants to destroy my friendships. He wants to destroy any relationship that I have. But God, I want you to take it and use it for good. Let him know that you know it might take a few years. Pray for strength. Father, I pray for these students that have gathered here tonight. Lord, I've watched them worship tonight. I've watched them share, listen to them worship. We've shared everything from people who have rejected you to people who have received you to people who are still thinking about you. And God, I don't know every situation every one of these teenagers is dealing with, but I know they got a situation. Some are good, some are bad. Some things they would love for you to show up and fix it right now. But God, I pray that through Joseph's story, that they can see, even in the now, even in the past decisions, that you're still working for their future. You're still working for the future that you have for them, for your kingdom, for what the enemy intends for bad. You want to make it good. So God, as we end this series tonight, talking about Joseph and past, present, and future, God, I pray these teenagers have a long, long life. I pray they lead a lot of people to Christ. And there's going to be times where they're going to fall off. There's going to be days where they don't pray. There's going to be days where they don't read their Bible. There's going to be some times where they lose their focus, God. But thanks to the stories of people like Joseph and other people in the Bible, we know that you're not gone, that you're still there. So God, I pray over every one of these situations that's on their hearts right now, and that you give them a little bit of a glance. You give them a little bit of a picture that you're still there, that you're working. God, I pray they can feel you tonight, that you love them and you still care. And God, most of all, if there's anybody here tonight that's never put their faith and trust in you, tonight's the night they tell the devil to hit the road, because there is a God who wants a relationship with them. Father, we've seen a lot of death in the last week. We've seen a lot of hopeless looking situations, but you are the rescue plan. Help us to grab a hold. So Father, tonight these teenagers are free to keep praying, or they can walk out of the room. But I pray either way, they walk out in victory with you. Thank you for being with us through this series. Carry us over into Sunday. Carry us back here next Wednesday to talk about advancing the gospel. But God, most of all, be with them when they walk out of this room tonight, because the devil's coming. But you're more. And we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. You are dismissed.